everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video, and welcome back to another edition of Talking Wheel of Time with, and I have a very special guest with me today, Kristy. Now, she is here to talk all about the books, the show, her involvement in the fandom, and a little bit about what she does for a living. So, before we actually get into the video and start talking about the Wheel of Time, I'm going to give full spoiler warnings because we're probably going to ruin all kinds of stuff during the video, I imagine, anyway. So, spoiler warning, if you haven't read all 15 books of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, that's New Spring all the way up to and including A Memory of Light, Before Warned, we will ruin character arcs and plot points from the whole series. And if you haven't watched the show, that's the first 8 episodes of the first season on Prime Video. We're going to ruin that stuff too, so you've been warned. Hi, Kristy. Thanks so much for being here today. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm happy you could come. I'm excited you're here. Why don't you tell the folks at home just a little bit about who you are, what you do, and your involvement with the fandom?
Sweet.
So
well,
we'll
I am Kristy. Oh, okay. I'm good to go. Hi, I'm Kristy. I am otherwise known probably in the fandom as Team Moiraine, or one of two of Team Moiraine. So Sarah Nakamura and I are known as Team Moiraine in Jordan Con fandom and Wheel of Time fandom, and started attending Jordan Con basically since year 1, and really was there for a number of years, and just have been involved with the fandom for quite some time, loving everybody, loving watching all these content creators like grow and build these channels, and it's just been amazing to see. But by day, I am actually a creative production director at a marketing agency, and I do full-time screenwriting. So I'm a contract screenwriter, and I work for a script service called wefixyourscript.com. So I'm a script doctor. Basically, people send us their scripts and they ask us to evaluate them, review them, help them fix them, script doctor them, rewrite them, however we need to. And so that's kind of just a little bit about me. Independent filmmaking. So I'm an independent filmmaker. My partner and I do our own independent films in the Pacific Northwest. So we've done a number of short films and feature films here. I live in Idaho, but we do a lot of work here in the region. And that's just a little bit about me and my Wheel of Timeness, I guess.
Thank you so much again for being here. I appreciate it. But we're here going to talk about the Wheel of Time. We're going to talk about the books a little bit first.
Let's do that.
So when did you start reading them? Like how long ago did you get involved? I know you said you've been to every Jordan Con since the beginning, and unfortunately, I didn't even know there was a Jordan Con until a couple of years ago. That's how big of a fan I was. Yes, that's terrible.
No, that's totally. It's funny because like a lot of people really didn't realize that there was a convention going on for so long. We actually took a break. So Sarah and I started going from Jordan Con 1, and then 2016 was the first year that we couldn't attend. Clearly, if everybody does the math, they'll realize why. Stuff about the show kind of started coming to be, and Sarah's involvement in working in the industry took that direction. And so we weren't at Jordan Con for a few years, but returned in 2019 and then jumped right back into it and had a lot of fun. But I actually started reading the books in 1999, and it was about a month after I met Sarah. So Sarah and I, really long story, in a completely previous life, met in a chat room, like a Yahoo chat room. We were fans of a music group. I'm not going to even talk about it. And so we met in this chat room, and then I ended up moving to the same city that she was in, which was Tulsa, Oklahoma. She grew up in Tulsa, and I was going to college in Oklahoma. So we met and became friends. And then like within a month of us really hanging out and being friends, she kind of just one day just like chucked the book at me and my roommate. And she was like, if you guys don't read this book, we can't be friends anymore. So, and I'm gonna like reveal a secret about Sarah. Not a secret. It's just a really cool thing that like maybe a lot of people don't know. But when I met Sarah, she used to have this yellow backpack. And in this yellow backpack, she would carry copies of the book with her everywhere we went. So she worked at the mall. We worked at the mall. She would walk around. Everyone would know Sarah as the girl with the yellow backpack with the books in her backpack. And it was always like something like I remember from my first memories about meeting her and becoming, really close and best friends with her. But after I read the first book, I was hooked. So at that time, I think Crown of Swords or Winter's Heart wasn't out yet. So I think it was just books 1 through 8 that I was able to kind of read right before Winter's Heart came out. So yeah, that was me in 1999, started reading the books, and and then just became crazy fans since then. And when we found out that they were actually going to do a convention, which just searching online one day, really realized that there was like a pretty decent fandom online. I mean, obviously Dragonmount and Tarvalon.net and those websites, but then we saw that they were getting ready to do this convention, and we were like, oh my God, we have to go. Like, we got to go. There's like a bunch of Wheel of Time people there, and we have to be there. Like, we got to be at the first one. So
I never knew there was a Dragonmount, didn't know Tarvalon.net existed. The only website that I was aware of, and this would have been in the mid to late 90s, I want to say, was Watmania.
Oh, yep.
That's dating me a little bit, I think.
Not too much. I know it.
and I mean, I used to do RP chats and stuff on there with other people, and that's the only interaction I ever had with any Wheel of Time fandom until I started my channel. I didn't even know there was anyone else out there that did anything with it, which is kind of neat. Now there's everybody. I know everybody. So it's great.
Right?
Like, there's so many people. So
yeah, like they become your best friends. They become your family. It's like a second family.
The whole fandom's so great, and everybody watching out here, you're all amazing. You really are.
Yeah, we love you.
So you started reading in '99. What was your favorite character when you started reading the books? Like what character? I know it probably changes. For me, at least, it changes almost. Well, everyone except my main favorite character changes with every reread. But who would be right now if you had to say your favorite character?
Okay, it's gonna like blow everybody's freaking mind. Rand.
Oh,
Rand was one of my favorite characters from the beginning, and I call myself an anomaly. I'm just like I don't know. I don't know why. I've always just felt like I was just a really kind of different person. And I really honestly connected and had this unique relatability to Rand's emotional and mental journey, where he was constantly questioning himself, constantly questioning the world around him, not having confidence in himself, but then the fear and the weight that he would carry, particularly with those first 3 or 4 books. Rand was always a standout to me. And I always just kind of really felt this draw and this kind of connection with him, particularly in the beginning. Yeah. So yeah, he started out being essentially really my favorite character from the start. And I know a lot of people like, Rand is like my least favorite character, but he was. I loved him from the start, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I take my cues from my favorite character. I don't like Rand either. No, that's good though. I mean, there's very few people I've talked to that actually consider him a favorite, and I like him. I think he's a great character. He's definitely not even in top 5 for me though. But I can see why. I can see why. Yeah,
for sure. As you go on and you move through the books, obviously, clearly that jump starts to grow. Like I'm a female, so as I grew into my 20s and into my 30s, then you start to have relatability to some of the female arcs. Like Nynaeve and obviously Moiraine. Because I really gravitate towards, I don't want to say like strong female characters, and being a writer, that word and that phrase is just tossed around so much now, but there's just a sense about particularly Moiraine, and this is why obviously we ended up becoming Team Moiraine the way we did. There's just a sense about her that I love the presence of having the confidence and the ability to be set within her own knowledge, but that she doesn't have to show that outwardly all the time. She just has a very stoic, but a presence, but in a different way. Like Lan's stoic, but Moiraine is in a different way and in a different sense. And I just really, I love her development and her presence basically in the first few books as well. And so she was, again, just one of those characters as I kind of grew in my life that I really kind of leaned towards. And then again, spoiler, obviously in book 5 there's that self-sacrifice moment that reaches you and grabs you. Yeah.
Favorite death, was it Moiraine your favorite death in the books?
Oh yeah.
And
yeah,
and I don't mean by like the character you wanted to die, just the scene.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say it's my favorite. I definitely think it's powerful. I think it's a very powerful moment. And one of those that obviously for us that had been reading the books for years and then waited for years for her to return was very significant. But, I mean, Egwene's kind of blaze of glory moment at the very end is speaks to the whole kind of theme and element of the Wheel of Time overall. So
No,
I
no,
just think that
100%.
there's a couple of cool ones like that. But yeah, I mean, Moraine's obviously definitely stands out to me in Fires of Heaven.
So, from a screenwriter's perspective, do you think they'll kill her off in the show? Because I mean,
Moraine's character?
yeah, she's the main character of the show. I mean, realistically, do you think at some point they'll get to the point where they can go, we'll now do this without Rosamund for a bit? Or do you think they'll say, she's going to take over the role of other characters instead?
If I were in that writer's room, there's no way I wouldn't not kill her. I would absolutely do that. I mean, they even did that obviously with Game of Thrones and with the whole Jon Snow thing. And so, yeah, you just got to, because that's shaping narrative. That's really kind of going on a death and rebirth journey for a lot of the characters in the Wheel of Time, which we see a lot of those moments for them. But if we don't lose that keystone and that touchstone of how she was the inciting incident for the story altogether, there's no way that they're going to be able to really set up this establishment of like, hey, this woman is the one who came in and brought these kids out of this village and brought them into the world, and now she's gone. What are they going to do? Like, you have to explore that. You have to really go down that realm with the TV show. We get to read a lot more about it in the books and have a stronger development in the books. But I do think the show has a great opportunity to have a huge twist, a huge big death, and then a rebirth of some of these characters in their own journey after that.
I think out of all the characters in the show right now, for the people who haven't read the books, that would probably be the biggest shock.
Yeah, for sure.
Rosamund Pike she's their title actress. Yeah, she's the A-lister that runs the show.
But there's no, I mean, with TV, it's, you kill your character, but there's nothing to say that you can't either, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, you can't either have flashback moments. You can't have moments where you are showing glimpses of memories or things that she said, or having voiceover moments where you hear her voice.
She becomes the narrator, so to speak. Yeah.
And she becomes something, because these kids are always going to, think back to these moments or these things that she said that we know, even in the books, as we go back and read, oh, she said that. And that was a seed that she was planting that we now think about when she's gone. Right. So do that same thing. And Rosamund Pike's also an executive producer on the show. So it would be fine if she was okay with the fact that, she's stepping back as kind of a lead on screen, but her character presence is still there throughout the narrative.
That would be, I can see that. Yeah. So I'm going to ask one more question about the books before we go on to the show. And that's favorite scene out of the entire series, start to finish. If you had to pick one scene, and it can't be the last battle. It can't be Dumais Wells.
You're pulling like all the good ones. Dang it.
We'll say it can't be those two. So just another scene. My favorite scene in the entire series, if you want to think for a second, was not in the show, unfortunately. And I was a little bummed it wasn't, and that was when Rand fell into the gardens. And he got to meet Queen Morgase in the first book, The Eye of the World, and Elida came by and pulled his sword. And then everybody in the whole room was ready to die. I still, every single time I read the series, get goosebumps reading that particular scene. Just that, because I know it comes on later on now, obviously, but I still remember the very first time I read it when I was 9 years old, and I was eating an orange popsicle, actually, at the time when I read that. I still remember it.
Oh, so you remember that. That's how much it sticks in your brain.
That's how powerful that scene was to me. And when it didn't show the show, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No. So what's interesting is, I don't know if you know that, like, on the Dusty Wheel, a few times we've done like adaptation episodes. And so Matt has had me like, hey, go in and pick a book or a scene from one of the books and adapt it. And the first one I did was that scene. So I did Rand falling over the wall into the gardens, and then he meets Elaine and Gawain and Galad for the first time. And it was one of the, like, my most favorite things I've written. I love the way that I did the adaptation on that, not just because I'm trying to toot my own horn. But I know Gawain's your favorite character, and 100%, honestly,
I have the tattoos to prove it.
I don't hate him as much as everybody else does either. And I think that he has a lot of potential, and there's opportunity to make him, just to bring out a different aspect of him and to highlight him in the show. And I really hope that they do. But when I did that adaptation, I really made him like a lot more, I brought a comedic element to him
Mhm.
I gave his bond with Elaine a little more of some weight to it, so that there was this really kind of unique dynamic with like him and Elaine. And then when Galad shows up, obviously you can see that there's like a
Yeah.
trifecta of crazy there with their family. But yeah, that's actually a really memorable scene, and that's why that's one of the ones that I chose to do the adaptation for. And then I think another one, honestly, and it was the second one that I did an adaptation for, and I know it's only in The Great Hunt, but it's when Rand meets Swan for the first time, and he goes
That's a
into
good one.
that
That's a
room,
really good one.
and Moiraine's sitting there, and Varen's sitting there, and he's standing in front of their omelette for the first time. And I just love, it's my cat. Sorry, she's very needy.
She could be part of the show too.
She can be part. She's just a muffin. Yeah, that scene to me, we haven't seen that scene clearly, obviously, and
Yeah.
I don't know if we will, because we've obviously been introduced to her character in season
Yeah.
1, and now they've gone in a different route. But I would really have loved to have seen that scene on screen, because again, that's just one of those heavily weighted scenes when she's just very blunt with him, and she's just basically like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I know who you are.
Yeah, I know who you are. You're the dragon. And okay, now be on your way. And he's just like, what? Like, I love that scene.
And he retains just a little bit of that arrogance at the end too. Just a little bit before he leaves. He's knocked off his feet for a second, but he comes back and he's just a little pissy before he leaves. It's nice. I like that.
Yeah, I like that. And I mean, maybe there's one more. God, I know, because there's just like so many. Oh my gosh.
There is. There's
so many. I think in Shadow Rising, when Egwene and Rand see each other for the first time again after he'd taken off and disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And they're basically kind of like having this little channel battle with each other, because he realizes that she can channel too. It's awesome. I freaking love that scene. And again,
I hope we get something like that too.
Yeah, I really want to see that, where like it's the moment that they both realize, hey, we can both do this, but I can do it better. No, I can do it better. And it's like so great. It's awesome. I love it. I love that scene. It elevates where we meet these kids and where they are in their life. And then you get that scene where it's like, I just love it. That's one of my favorites.
So with the show, first season was very different than the book, but not really. I mean, it's not as different as some people seem to think it is. But moving on, we have 7 seasons. If what Rafe said is true, and he said it, I think, only a couple of times in passing, that he was looking at 8 seasons. We have 7 seasons left, and we have essentially 13 or 14 books, however you want to look at it, plus short stories, plus everything else.
Yeah.
All of these plots, all of these extra characters, all these things going on. And even with all the leaks and things that happen for season 2, we really have zero idea of what direction they're taking.
Right.
So if you had to trim 2 characters from the second season, and by trim I mean kill off violently.
Oh gosh.
To make room for the growth and development of other characters, because I mean there are some characters in the show right now that they may be fan favorites, they may be important, they may be whatever, but their storylines and plot lines can be very easily done by other people that may be a little more central to the plot. So if you had to kill 2, if you could pick 2 people to die, who would they be?
Oh my God.
This is when we start making people mad.
I know this. Yeah. So we start pissing a lot of people off. I mean, I still am of the mindset that like the E5, the Emansfield people, you got to be able to stay with them. Yeah, they should absolutely stay. Yeah. I mean, it's an ensemble show. It's an ensemble story. And they're going to go off in their different directions, and they're going to have their own journeys. But I necessarily wouldn't consider them part of that group. What I'm very surprised about is that I thought that they were going to, and it's not because I heard anything ahead of time. It was just my guess, was that they were never going to introduce Tom, and they were going to leave Tom out of it completely. And I think with the way that they kind of wove his character and his significance and his importance into season 1, you really wouldn't even need to bring him back for season 2, to be honest with you. He's not contributing to the story and furthering the narrative in any way that you would have to have him return, other than he's a fan favorite. Yeah. So that would be one of them where I'd be like, why do we really need this character kind of thing? God, that's a great question, John. Jeez, holy crap. What have other people said? Because I feel
so what
like there's
I've
so many that I would cut, but like
what I've said that has really drove a lot of people angry and mad at me for it. And I don't like the idea, but I could understand how this could happen. Would be Swan.
oh, okay, I can see that. Yeah.
So Sophie's such a big actress.
Yes. Yeah.
She's so established. And Swan's parts realistically in the book is advisory after the second
For
book.
sure.
That's pretty much all she does.
Sure.
Liana
Yeah.
could definitely take that over. So if I had to pick one character for the second season, I would say it would probably be her during maybe the coup.
Yeah.
If there is a coup, they may not even do that. We have no idea. But if there
Yeah.
is a coup,
Yeah.
I would say her, and then that way Liana would be able to take up some of her storyline because we have so many characters and so little time realistically left.
Oh, for sure. Right, for sure. Well, and the other thing to think about is if you go that route, and that's actually a really smart idea. I like that. That's a good exploration kind of thought process because it's a driving factor for Moiraine to have stronger motivation if something happens to her.
Yeah.
So when she finds out that she was killed or something happened, that really gives a lot more weight in the show to Moraine's driving objective for the further of her story. So that's actually, I mean, I could see that right now because again, other than us setting up and establishing that Moiraine has a relationship with her and that they've been kind of working secretly, you kill her character off, Moraine's on her own, but now it's kind of a vengeance / stronger motive for her to achieve the objective that they worked so hard for so long.
And if they keep this, and if they keep the same pace of 8 episodes per season, which I have very little hope they'll ever increase that. And around
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
That's Amazon likes 8 for whatever reason. They really enjoy 8. And I had a really good discussion about Valley and Gus recently, the folks from Wheel Takes Pod, about that. And got their insight from it, which is Amazon has a lot of data that after 8 episodes, people kind of stop watching. After 55 minutes an hour, people start to lose interest and they stop watching, and their whole purpose is to make money, so of course they're going to trim. And as fans, we're all like, well, where are these scenes that we really wanted to see and whatnot?
Right.
But people like my wife, who's never read the books, and she's a fantasy fan for TV and movies, she'll watch it and she doesn't miss this stuff.
Right, because
I'm watching it with I'm watching it and I'm like, they missed this, they missed this. I want to see this, and she's like, none of that matters. And I was like, oh well, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, no,
So-
my husband's the same way. Like he hasn't read the books, and he's not a big fantasy guy, but he really is. I mean, obviously we're filmmakers and we're screenwriters, and so we're very story driven. And there's things that he missed too, where he was like, I don't understand. And then when I explain, he goes, oh, that makes sense. But in the way that they've got it structured right now, that wouldn't answer any question that I have. You know what I mean?
No, 100%.
So, yeah, I totally get that. And yeah, Allie and Gus are right. I mean, they're spot on, and we're in the industry. 8 episodes really is kind of the target for a lot of the streaming shows. For the episodic serial series, a limited series can get away with 6 episodes, but
I miss the days of Lost and Heroes when you had 26
know,
episodes. Right? Like I miss those. And again, for those of you who are younger than me watching, go watch Lost. It's really good.
It's really good. And we got to watch 20 episodes a season or whatever, 24, but we had to wait like every week. And then we had to wait like months and months and months until we found out
in between.
Next.
There was no binging.
Yeah. No binging, no spoilers, no review episodes we could watch all week long.
There was no internet really. You could
and
go online.
The 8-week thing too plays into that as well, because that really ties into kind of the normality of the YouTube environment and the landscape where everybody is doing the reviews each week. And you've only got the audience for that certain subject for a certain amount of time, a couple of months. And then they move on to the next show that's coming on, or the next big Marvel movie that's coming out, or whatever. Yeah. So the 8 episodes definitely sticks in terms of like, this is what makes sense.
We can all wish for more, but I don't think we'll. As long as they don't do less. If they go to 6 like Marvel does, I'd be furious.
Well, and see, Marvel's doing that because
limited series. That's right.
They're walking into it with the idea that this is limited series. We want to tell one story arc. If the show or if the series has enough of the weight and is successful enough.
Mhm.
Could it expand out? Do we have the opportunity to do that? But to play it safe, we've padded ourselves with the 6 episodes. It's its own standalone thing, and we can move on and never have to bring it back. And that's why they do that. That's the decision to do that for Disney, which makes sense.
We'll end on a fun note here. If you could fan cast any single celebrity, doesn't matter how big they are, doesn't matter how small they are, as any role in the show that hasn't already been cast, that's the only caveat. So they haven't already been cast.
Dang it.
If you could pick someone in any role at all, who would be?
Well, let's see.
You have to have a favorite somebody. I do. Bruce Campbell for Val and Luca, 100%. There's no question in my mind.
Val and Luca, I love that.
There's no question in my mind he would be amazing, and I'd like to see him creeping on Zoe. I think that'd be awesome.
Oh God, that's hysterical. Oh, okay. So it can be anybody that's already like the character's already in the show and already cast, but if I wanted somebody else for that role.
Yes, sure.
say?
Anybody at all.
Gosh, you're killing me with these questions today, John. I thought they were going to be easy because there's just like so many that you can think, right?
There is, yeah.
I don't know. Like that's a good thing. I've been thinking a lot about who I'd want for like Rourke or a couple of the Aiel that we're getting ready to either see or
yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about that. So I rewatched. This is why I was thinking this. And I've been thinking this for a long time. I thought this years and years ago. I rewatched like Resident Evil 2 the other day with my kids because I was like, we're watching the original Resident Evil because they're garbage lately. Let's go back. And Oded Fair is like I love that actor.
Mm-hmm.
I've loved him for a long time and I've always wanted him to be in something, but I know he doesn't quite exactly have the same look, but I've always wanted him to play in a role like either Lan or Gareth, either one.
Oh, Gareth would be so good.
Yeah.
Gareth would be good.
He's one of my favorites. I like him a lot.
A younger Sean Connery would be good as Gareth too, I think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Highlander #1, that era.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, he'd be good.
And half the time I don't even think these things because I'm always just like, oh, who they get is who they get. Like I know I see a lot of the fan casting, like they do like the fan cast Friday things. And every time I see something, I'm like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. I never really thought about it. Yeah.
The thing is they can only have a couple of union actors on the show. I think it's 2, right. I believe. And then you can't quote me on that, but that's what I've been told. So a lot of people are like, well, they don't have big name cameos or whatever. And that's why. Other than budget, that's part of the reason they have to have people that aren't part of the Screen Actors Guild. That
aren't part of SAG. And I don't know if I can say this. I'm sure maybe even Allie probably touched on it if she didn't, but the writers' room has moved to Europe as well. And
they're in London right now. Yep.
And a lot of those writers, I believe, are not WGA either, because guild fees are expensive. They really are. And, Amazon, I can understand on a numbers perspective and looking at a budget sheet and going like, hey, if there's any way we can save maybe budget wise and add to what we want to put into production, how can we do that? And it's like, well, we can save ourselves on paying guild fees and union fees, like SAG stuff and WGA stuff. So
cheaper is better.
I mean, well, I don't even necessarily think it's cheaper. I think it's like, how do we shift that money somewhere else maybe? And, and that's fine because if you're going to shift it into production. Yeah, right. And I think she has to be SAG. So her and Daniel Henney, I think, are probably the only 2 that are actually SAG.
I think so. Liana's Canadian, but I believe she's dual citizenship. So I think she's doesn't really count, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure. She is Canadian, but
yeah, and some actors can actually, even if they are SAG, they can still work. Or if they're vice versa, if they're not, but they can still work under guidelines that aren't like they can do their contracts in a certain way that they're not having to work under certain guidelines. But I mean, ultimately, I think with Amazon having the show shooting over in Europe anyway, it just
makes sense to
makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show here. Is there anything else you want to add before we end today?
Oh, I mean, I just want to say that I think everybody is awesome. Well, first off, you're awesome. I love your show.
Thank you so much.
Um, it's thanks for asking me to come on, because I've always just been like, oh my God, what up? I get to be on What Up. I'm so excited.
I get to be next to that bald head. Look at that.
I'm always walking around like John from What Up, John from What Up. My other
I'll have to send you a t-shirt. I'll give you a t-shirt.
And you didn't make it to JordanCon this year, so
No.
he didn't get to meet you because he was there this year. So I'm like, oh, John from What Up, and he's like, did I meet him? Is he one of the guys that I met? And I'm like, no,
unfortunately, not this. Not maybe next year. Maybe there's a chance. Yeah, there's a chance.
But no, the Wheel of Time fandom is, amazing. Clearly, obviously, we're kind of we're in a really interesting spot right now because of the release, obviously, of Rings of Power and Lord of the Rings. A lot of eyes are coming onto fantasy fandom, Wheel of Time in particular, sharing the same studio platform as Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings doing well just means that Wheel of Time can do well as well, because there's been so many new fans talking about it on Twitter and on Reddit and Facebook, unfortunately. But there's been we won't speak at that. No, but there's been so many new fans talking about it that didn't even know the show existed, because let's face it, the marketing wasn't great. And Rings of Power kind of fixed that, I guess, because
it's been awesome. It's been awesome to see. So just, love the Wheel of Time fandom. Love you guys. And excited to see what season 2 brings.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon. I want stuff, previews and things and trailers
right now.
TV. Right now, Amazon, get it now.
Well, thank you all very much for sticking with us here to the very end, and here's to many more.